Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Welcome to the latest installment in CODA's webinar series. My name is Shaun Sadler. I'm the General Manager here at CODA, and I'm delighted to say that today I'm joined by Kim Horwood. Kim has been CODA's resident waste management expert for the last year or so.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me, Shaun.
Okay, so today Kim and I are going to walk you through the development of CODA's Decommissioning Waste Facilities database. It's a platform we launched late last year. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the broader context of the database and what led to its development. We'll look at how the database was constructed and review the overall metrics, structure and options that we've developed to have a closer look at the data that we've put into there. And finally, we'll give a quick live demo of the database functionality so you can actually see it in action. But Kim and I are actually really here to answer your questions about the database. So please feel free to drop any observations or questions into the meeting chat as we're going along, okay? So bear with me while I share my screen. We're going to walk you through a couple of pieces in relation to the background of the database. So this is what I just walked you through. I'm going to start with a bit of context, why CODA is focused on waste management, how do we get to actually developing a decommissioning waste facilities database, how the database itself was actually constructed, give you some high-level overview about the platform, the nature of the platform, and then give you a live demo for opening the floor to yourselves. And we'll read off any questions in the chat and talk through that from our perspective. So let's start by looking at why waste management. Where does CODA's ongoing focus on waste management and recycling come from? And really take you back to 2022 when we released this one of these landmark directional reports relating to decommissioning that CODA put together. And really, we were taking an overview of, particularly in terms of offshore decommissioning, what types of materials do we expect to see coming onshore? What's going to be the dominant form of materials? And what typically are the volumes in each case? Part of this study also looked at the potential or reported capacity, at least at a high level, of disposal and recycling supply chains to actually deal with this material once it gets back to the ports around Australia. Amongst the key recommendations from the study was essentially more detailed analysis of supply chains and markets. So really, we've always had this as part of the end-to-end decommissioning chain and work program, a key focus for CODA, and also a key focus for people in the WA government who actually provided us with financial support to do the work that we did in 2024, for which we are extremely grateful. So an ongoing focus on local disposal and recycling. So just to talk a little bit about motivation, because I think it's fair enough to say that we didn't actually set out to do this, at least in terms of developing a decommissioning waste facilities database specifically when we started to scope out the work that we were going to do in 2024. One of the things we'd said we wanted to do, and one of the key drivers behind this, was running workshops, waste management workshops. We ran two. We ran one specifically for oil and gas operators, and we ran a separate one for people working in the waste management supply chain. And really that helped to actually encourage participation and openness during the workshops. And it was fascinating because these two events actually revealed very different views and perceptions from different parts of the industry in relation to decommissioning waste management and the preparedness of Australia to actually handle what was coming in terms of the decommissioning of offshore facilities. So when we saw this, and we saw from one perspective that there was concern over the availability and scale and connectedness of the waste management supply chain, whereas from another perspective, there was concern about needing to understand what decommissioning was actually going to generate in terms of the nature of waste and getting visibility for people who have the capability to manage it. One of the ways that we thought about unlocking that discrepancy in viewpoints was to actually build a waste facilities database and to thereby show and really demonstrate the capacity and capability openly to every aspect of the industry, all people involved in the industry. So that's where the original intention came from. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual process of developing the database itself. Because again, we didn't explicitly start to build a database. We actually started by releasing a survey, quite a comprehensive survey. We wanted to gain as much information as it's possible to do so directly from people working in the waste management supply chain with relevant capabilities. So we put together quite a comprehensive and complex survey and sent it out to as many people as we could contact. And we actually received almost 50 full responses, which is we consider a good outcome. This is a particularly rich data set, and we really do say thank you to all the people who took the time to actually fill that survey out, because it's a tremendous foundation for us when we're doing this type of work. But when we got this information back, we also realized that we needed some broader input from across the full waste management ecosystem in order to place it in context. So where do we get that from? How do we build the foundations of that? Well, actually, there's a nationwide or national waste management or waste database that already existed, produced by DECU, the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water. So DECU's database has been in play for some time. The latest update to it was in 2022, but it did list a very large number of facilities right across the country. Now, we took parts of that as a foundation for what we wanted to build, so it gave us a springboard, a step up. But then we had to do an awful lot of work to actually get this in shape and make it work for us in terms of what we were intending to do and provide back to the decommissioning industry sector. So we needed the content to be limited to data that was actually relevant to decommissioning waste streams. So there was a very significant amount of extraneous data and information sitting in that database, and we had to work through all of that and make sure that that wasn't represented. And similarly, suitable coverage provided for areas which were underrepresented in the DQ database.
I think also there was another few databases that we leveraged off. So there was an ARC GIS database. DQ seemed to be more comprehensive. And we did notice, Shaun, in those workshops that a lot of our operators were utilising the DQ database as their first port of call for these facilities. Somebody who goes and visits a lot of the facilities a lot and knows a lot about the facilities, I couldn't find some of the stock standard facilities that everybody utilises on the ARC database, and a lot of waste facilities, the merger and acquisitions happen on a consistent basis, right? So we had to keep on changing, and we had to pretty much update it. There was whole states missing. There was no, I think 3 of the states just didn't have any facilities on that one. So with us in decommissioning, we decided that we had to really, really focus on states. We focused heavily on WA, and there's a bit more information on WA's facilities. And we also had a look at their architecture, which is very much aligned with the national reports. But we wanted to make it a little bit more standardised across all the country, because we all have, if you're sitting in Victoria versus sitting in WA versus sitting in Northern Territory, we all talk a different language and have different terminology.
So a good foundation from the DQ database. We needed to do an awful lot of work to get it into shape and get it to a set of completeness for the decommissioning focus that we wanted to go after with this. So an awful lot of work involved in rigorously cross-referencing to a broad range of reliable sources that Kim tracked down, including the outputs of the facility survey, fundamentally involved in inputs to the database. Classification of facilities and waste types, as Kim's just talked about, causing to recognise standards, but adapted to take account of the fact that different terminology is used in different parts of the country.
Yeah, and I think it's also quite pertinent to recognise that we are aware that we had robots built. We had a look at all of that. We combed through all the different permits from every single state to make sure that we were aligned with the most up-to-date information we could access at that point in time and at any point in time. But it's still, the waste industry moves very, very quickly. So it will be kept maintained live, but we need the interaction of the waste community to keep it as interactive as possibly can.
Absolutely, and that work crawling through some of the databases really helped us uncover some of the licensing information, and you'll see some of that fundamentally underpins the data set, which is now inside this platform. Of course, we needed it to be something that you could use rather than just a great big spreadsheet, and we've used our past experience by linking the compilation of data and information using Power BI, building an interactive interrogation of the data through this user interface that you're going to see in a moment. So now what we want to do, I'm going to hand over to Kim and say a few words about some of the overview metrics in the database and just get some idea of the scale of what we've got going on here.
So what you can see here, Shaun, is we've got 2,200 facilities recorded on the database. I specifically combed out quite a few of the facilities in places like Arnhem Land where we do not want decommissioning waste landing up. And you will see that there are mines that are in database. You'll see quite a few manufacturing facilities in this database. Why are they there? Well, they're there because there's always a potential that if you are decommissioning, a facility out in the middle of you might want to be using those facilities, and you might want to see if you can access these facilities. So we have kept them there. There's a possibility. You've also seen that there's also, if you go on and have a look, we've got Christmas Island and those facilities on there. It's just literally because there's a potential that they might be needed. If you have a look here, the facility count by stream, I think it's really important to see here, Shaun, it's where these are the richer facilities. This is where there are most of these facilities. But we have got other facilities in here. Once again, what you'll see is something very typical to our country, and that really does reflect our manufacturing industry, is that most of our facilities are actually located in Victoria, New South Wales, and a little bit of South Australia, Queensland, and then kind of petering off into WA. Now, remembering that in WA we have got very specialist, very unique tellers. We've also got very unique facilities up in Northern Territory. There's very unique facilities in each state. So I don't want to single out any of them, which I did, I'm really sorry to say, but it's very much there. Our country is pan country. It's pan the whole facilities, and you have to really be able to look and interrogate where you can go at all times. The other thing that's important to see is there's quite a few facilities that are consolidation. I think that's on the next slide. So what Shaun has just got on to here now is our waste pathways. What I did here, and what we did at this point in time, is we were looking at trying to simplify our pathways and trying to simplify language and try to simplify terminology, try to simplify the types of facilities and where they're going to go. So you'll see consolidation and storage. Those are generally either known as material recycling facilities, same thing, or transfer facilities. There's a lot of those around the country. I took off all the drop-off facilities, for example, for containers for change. Our landfill, each state calls landfill, classifies them very differently. So we did revert to the DQ landfill classifications, inert, putrescible, because they do speak quite common language. And then, yeah, you do see there's 57 types And these are the common types of facilities. In Australia, we have got a few very unique facilities. And here we're looking at pathways. So once again, we have the same situation. We had to simplify. So you have got facilities where recycling can be regeneration, they can be reprocessing, but we've really had to kind of simplify it just because it is a database, and whilst we've got a really rich source of information, which you're welcome to interrogate, this is a first pass, and this is enabling people to be able to make a phone call, right? So your consolidation and storage are really important facilities, because this is where, especially in our decom industry, we're going to come up with bits and bobs. We're going to come up with smaller volumes, and these guys are going to have to go places where these facilities are licensed. They've got dangerous goods licenses, they've got EPA licenses, and they're able to professionally blend and store waste until it's bulked and have economies of scale to be able to move it. Disposal, that's endpoint disposal. That's where these waste points are. That's the last pathway. And recycling, that can be anything from regeneration, reprocessing, to composting and recycling. And obviously we carry on going down. The disposal has got two, somebody's in there.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screens now, and I'm going to hand over to Kim. Kim's going to share in a live version of the front end of the database, and just show you a couple of tips and tricks for filtering some of the data.
So this is not the public, am I correct, Shaun? This is the partner portal.
Yep.
It's a bit more rich in information. And in each stage you can start to see we had to look at different, accessing different data and different types. So just to go back where you can start to see even an ACT here, we had bots crawling to get information. We chose very specific problematic waste streams, and we did web searches, so Google searches, web searches. We had a look at diving into networks. We found a lot of people to figure out if we had all the right specialist facilities, and we also try to get all the municipality facilities that might in some ways be relevant. Now ACT potentially is one of those outlier states, but it wasn't on the GQ database. So because we're specialising in Western Australia, I'm going to show you Western Australia first. So you can use, on our database, you can use the map view, you can use the drop-down boxes, you can use, you can kind of go into all your different waste streams, and you go down to waste types. So there's quite a few different ways of filtering for information. If we wanted to go into the Abercrombie Road Rose, this one in particular, I don't know if I see this one. You'll start to see our bots for WA also linked the license. So that allows anybody who wants to go in to this facility to actually automatically understand in WA, because the focus was on WA, is on WA for the study, to be able to understand what the license is. And you can, if anybody knows how to use our WA licensing system, you can very quickly see what the compliance, the issues are. You know that it's a licensed facility, and you are able to carry on in that space. So what you do then, we can go down and we can carry on going through. So you can basically click on where you want to go. It's got all of the names of the facilities. It's got the gold mines. So in here, there's, what else would we like to be able to show, Shaun?
Different filters.
Okay, so let's have a look and let's go play. So contaminated sands and soils, or, yep, should we go into that one? I'm still stuck in the WA one, so let's take it out of WA, select all. And these are the different facilities that we could find that are doing contaminated sands and soils in our country. Why have we got a lot? If you look at High Qual, Cleanaway, and Geocycle, Renix, Taylor's Road, these are all facilities, Shaun, that actually filled in our survey, which means that they've been able to give us a much wider, richer source of information. And sometimes it was also just going out and actually physically entering data. So once again, you've got their website, so you can click on there, you can get their contact details, and you can make sure that they are, it's a first pass. That's the address. What else do we want to show? Should we go on to... Now, I think Mercury is a really good one to show everybody. We don't actually have a fixation unit at the moment. So we've got liquid mercury. So let's go to waste oils. So across the country, you can get waste oils recycled or managed as a first point of call at your different facilities. So it's quite important to see that you can go to Cleanaway. So we'll go here, it'll actually click down, give you on the map where it is. You guys can then start to see how we get hold of it. It's got the address and I'll have the link. So here's Cleanaway's. These guys are a consolidation and blending storage. So how you'd read that, you'd go, if I send it to this facility, they're going to be able to accept it, they're going to blend it, they're going to consolidate it, and they're going to send it elsewhere. When it's a blending and consolidation and storage facility, you don't quite know where they're going to send it because that is their confidential information and that's how they operate. If it's a landfill, high quality, for instance, these guys will be accepting it, probably fixating that waste and then putting it into landfill safety for safe storage. Southern Oil, if you go into Southern Oil, I hear about Wagga Wagga. It's a really great little facility and they are able to accept these types of waste products. GRR up in Northern Territory. Off you go. So the whole idea was just to give you guys the first pass of what these guys are able to access. And Shaun, it was to be able to say, yes, there is plastics. There are plastics facilities in our country. Where do I even find them? Instead of having to spend hours and hours and hours looking through internet and doing kind of search that we were doing, this is an ability to be able to go straight away, find out what we found is the most relevant detail. Where's our plastics? Plastics. Sorry, guys, it's a bit frustrating to watch for me to do it. And off you go. Okay. Oh, we have to click out. Okay, so plastics. So there's a lot of facilities in plastics, and a lot of these guys were found, and a lot of them haven't been found. So let's go into this one here. South Australia, we've got a link into that particular one. So some of the details we weren't able to get hold of, so we have got that. Carrington Plastics. Yeah.
So I think, a couple of key things here that Kim's been able to demonstrate in the live demo. First, the very interactive nature of it. You're clicking here on facilities, we're zooming in and out. It's the system is doing that itself, okay, because you want to see a particular piece of data, so it's taking you to that location. The map is actively responding to, your request for information. Secondly, that there are a number of ways to filter this data. If you're looking for a particular waste type, if you're looking for a particular facility type, or if you're just interested in how the waste pathways fit together, all of those are actively embedded in here and in the functionality of the user interface as filters, and you can see it sort of working its way through that. Finally, really the richness of the data set and a very significant amount of data that underpins this. The version, as Kim mentioned, that we're showing you is sitting inside CODA's partner portal. So CODA partners have access to the full version of this, whereas the public version will have just a summary of what facilities are available in which place. So, and again, showing you again, these are actively linked. Some of that data and information is actively linked through the user interface. So there's a high level of usability, and it's a very significant amount of information that you can get in a short space of time. As long as you're clear about what you want to know, or even if you just want to play around, you can pick up an awful lot of information and start following down your threads and answering your own questions with this information pretty fast. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to reshare back into it. Oh, actually, no, we'll just leave it up at the moment. We're going to go over to some Q&A and just see what's coming in. So please do, again, type in some things for us to think about and answer for you. The first question that we got that's come up from Kenneth Lee, will the database be regularly updated and refreshed? Just want to know how up to date the information is in the database. So excellent question, Kenneth, and it was one that we thought we would get asked because we've been asked exactly that a good few times, and quite rightly so. You want to know that this is current and that we're actively looking at it. So yes, there are plans for us to update on a regular basis. There are two things to think about here. One is the fact that what Kim talked about right at the start, which is that this is a very dynamic ecosystem right across the country in terms of waste management. New capabilities are being developed, new facilities are being developed on a fairly regular basis. So we can track some of that and update it. But as Kim mentioned earlier, we've created a facility whereby the industry itself can inform us and ensure us that we have the most current information that we need to keep on top of this database for you. So if you go onto this page on the CODA platform, you'll find there's a link to a form which will allow you to fill in details that you know. And if you are a facility owner and you want to update the details of your facility, you can fill that form in and send it in to us, and we'll immediately update it. It'll come through into the database. And obviously we'll be, periodically we'll be taking a look at, are there major changes in the industry that need to be captured in here? So it's a mixture of us looking and the industry telling. Absolutely, it's our intention to keep it up as updated as it can be. One of the other things that I think is worth talking about is, I mentioned at the start that the motivation for us to actually create a database was helping to sort of smooth out the understanding or build a more common understanding between waste producers and the waste management supply chain of who's got what waste is going to be produced, who's got the capabilities to handle it, and at what capacity and where that is, and who's licensed to do it. And very much of what we're trying to demonstrate today, that certainly for waste producers, at least initially, there's a lot of opportunity for you to sort of go and find out, pretty quick, who's out there who can deal with your particular type of waste or a collection of waste or waste streams. You can drill down into the data and understand exactly who's providing that capability, that capacity, and where it is. But we also see a future in which CODA can act as a more proactive connector between waste producers and supply chain, potentially building collaboration platforms, events to better enable this, to actually bring people together and have open conversations through the CODA platform, to actually better understand the requirements from both sides. And we're very keen on doing that in future. The other thing is, as we have done in the past, this database will be supported by a fairly comprehensive report which will be published by CODA shortly and be available on the website. That will tell you a lot about how we thought about going about this, what we actually did, what we learned. It'll give you detailed outputs from the workshops, and it will also look at how do we in the decommissioning industry compare to, for example, other industries who have significant or similar decommissioning challenges, such as mining and in particular the nuclear industry. So some interesting insights and perspectives, and also from other global jurisdictions will be in there. That's coming in a few weeks' time.
And Shaun, just to remember that waste facilities, so we've got some really big waste management companies in this country. We've also got a lot of really, really passionate, really, really amazing smaller facilities in this country. These guys operate really leanly. Business development and marketing is not really huge in their scope. These guys are just trying to get the waste in and process it. So, drop them a phone call. Use this as an option to say, hi, Access Recycling, can you guys take my ferrous metals? What other non-ferrous metals do you take? By the way, could I give you other metals? And you often will find that they will. They're quite adaptable. They're quite nimble as long as they're working within their license. But they don't know how to get hold of you guys in the oil and gas industry. They don't know how to get hold of anybody else. They are very much on a limb. So reach out to them. That was the whole idea, is that you guys have got this ability to use the C&D recycling, go for concrete, have a phone call about these facilities. Yeah.
We've got another couple of questions in. Mark Barnick says, can you sort facilities by capacity to handle various types of waste products, e.g. tons of metals per annum, etc.?
So we had a look at doing that, and we were looking at that, and the best way to do that was to go and look at their licenses. It's glitched right now. And when you look at the licenses, you could do the capacity. So we actually have got that on a separate database. But the issue then came in that some of these facilities operate on an annual basis a bit differently per annual. They also operate, they're just operating on their own, not always to their license throughput capacity. So it's a bit harder to actually say and do that. This will allow you to be able to actually understand where the facilities are and make those connections at phone calls.
So it's a good question, and we like feedback like that in terms of things that we could potentially do, because it helps us to think about how we would be able to do that consistently. So excellent question. Lucy Muir has asked, is there further detail on plastics? For example, the type of plastics that may be generated offshore are very different to plastic bottle recycling, for example. Or is it up to the user to call the facility and ask about their facility-specific capabilities?
Lucy, I love that question, and definitely if you start to think of everything and we started to break it down and really, really get into that granularity, we will end up getting there at some point, won't we, Shaun? But at this point in time, this is the launch, and this is version 1. We would like to get to that point where we are able to look at the different plastic types and the different types of plastics that, so it's even whether they can take, even some of them can only take certain types of PET, but PET 1 or whatever, but we need to get into that granularity. So this is just a first pass off to get all the plastic facilities. You can have a phone call. Yeah. Yeah,
and I think it's, as I say, it's the starting point, is it? But again, you're pointing at questions and challenges that we're actively thinking about. So it's good to get feedback in forums like this to know that you're also interested in that. Tim Sheldon Collins has asked, are you going to distinguish between facilities that are licensed to handle waste, basically a pass-through, compared to those who can actually treat or recycle?
Sorry, but I'm talking about your pass-through. Are you talking about consolidation?
So I think what's being asked there is that I think there is data in there already that will tell you about the licensing status of the various facilities. So that's information that you will be able to pick up at the moment.
But if it's a consolidation point, that's the pass-through facilities that I think he's thinking about. Yes, you can see it's called consolidation, and that's why we went really simple. We just all called it consolidation and storage or materials recovering facilities. When you're starting to talk about the processing facilities, that's the waste pathway that says if it's going to be recycled. And should we possibly put on another few more? We can.
And again, it's a good question. A lot of these questions come down to, additional levels and layers of filtering of the data. And as I say, it's good feedback. But there's also a balance between usability as well, general usability of the platform, such that it's not overly complex. But again, all of these things can be considered, and versions of the product can be built that will actually do that further down the line. Slade, can CODA provide any comment on the work being done to understand the permissions, requirements, approvals to move waste from one state to another? Probably beyond the scope of this discussion, Slade. It is something that we're trying to build collaboration platforms that can look at that and actively have those conversations, but probably not for us to comment on it in this particular forum. Eileen, potentially the waste recycling industry associations in all states and territories could connect their members to this database.
Well, that would be great. Love that.
Absolutely. We would actively encourage people to know about it. And this, it comes back again to, who actually knows about this? Who knows about decommissioning as a waste management challenge? And who knows about what we've done to try and help all aspects of the industry to deal with this. So in that context, it's on us a little bit to make sure that people know about it, but also for the people that are connected into this conversation at this stage to spread the word. Come and speak to us. We're always happy to talk to anybody who wants to learn more about it. Rowan Holland, could you, as an example, search for where to recycle zinc in Victoria? I think you could do that.
Well, we didn't go down to the zinc. So this is once again, so any typical oil and gas facility is going to have 363 waste types. And then you're going to be able to go down and just carry on branching into every single chemical. So, to get into that level of granularity and detail as a first pass is quite hard. So that's where we start to look at metals and non-ferrous metals, and we really had to draw a line in the sand at some point. And hopefully as version 2, 3, 4, we get more and more granularity as we work with the facilities more and more in this space.
Angie, you've asked about if CODA will be tendering a submission with recommendations for streamlining to government in terms of the Recycling and Waste Reduction Act 2020, being the main Commonwealth legislation, the sports action on the circular economy. From the perspective of the work that we have done so far, when you see the report that we've produced, which is actually really directed at governments for consideration, as I said, it was supported by the WA state government, but we talk about these based on what we have learned through this process. You will find when that report is published that there are a series of recommendations about how we communicate around waste management in particular, and how we connect the different communities involved in different areas and industries involved in it. So I'm not going to say that we will definitely make a submission in that space, but certainly you will see us making recommendations, and really it's for the intention of everybody in the industry to see, and certainly for governments to look at. Okay. We've got a question. Great work in Breastfed Carbon. Would you consider working with international associations to lend your platform expertise, setting up similar in other countries? We would be very open to having that conversation. Absolutely. And we're aware that there are other in Southeast Asia, Australasia, that there's people who are interested in the work that we've been doing in this space in terms of crunching all the information together and making it accessible as it can be. And certainly we're happy to have any further conversations around that. Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Shaun, I love these questions about getting into like an absolute nitty-gritty and granularity of the waste streams, because that's where I immediately want to go. But having worked with a lot of these facilities for a long time and being part of them, just go in and know kind of where they sit in that broad range and give them a phone call. See what they can do, because in my past experience, I've phoned some of these facilities and gone, I see you do solar panel. Let's have a chat. Let's exactly find out what you do it, how you do it. Oh, by the way, I'm really looking at doing X, Y, and Z. And all of a sudden they're really interested and they've actually been looking at those kind of stranger, different waste facilities. So if you're going within what they do, you generally will find that there's a possibility that they can. And like I said, there are facilities out here that we have specifically included, which are manufacturing facilities. And that's because you might phone them and go, can you recycle my waste? And they'll say no, but 3 phone calls later, they might say yes. So, you've just got to keep on trying. You've got to always be open and also just to remember, we work with a lot of different companies, don't we, Shaun, as CODA, and everybody's got their own waste stream. So just keep on having a look and keep on digging around in this database. It's a first pass. And the reason that we did it was because we had people saying there was absolutely no facilities that were able to accept waste in their area. And we knew that these facilities were there. So the big guys are definitely in this database. And some of these facilities, Shaun, they can accept 80 to 140 waste types, these consolidation guys.
Yeah.
Your bigger storage yards. And you just need to actually go, okay, I'm looking at it, and they can do hazardous metals. They can do hazardous liquids. They can do mixed recyclables. They can do other liquids and organics. I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to see what they can do. And unfortunately, that's how it goes. That is how our country is set up for waste. I think everybody needs to remember that waste facilities are built with machines and equipment that can have an incoming stream and an outgoing stream. They're built for a specific product, right? So those equipments generally can be used and processed differently to process different waste. The owners know what they can exactly accept is definitely to the owner, and it's definitely within the remit of their license. But it's having a chat to these guys and opening up the conversation.
Thanks, Kim. Well, listen, folks, we've not had any further questions at this stage. Oh, hang on. We have just had one pop in. Is it possible to search for anybody currently recycling marine growth or biofoul?
I knew that was going to come up. We didn't put that one in as a specific one, the marine growth one, because that one you're going to actually have to find different landfills.
Thanks.
I
think it's something that, if you reached out to us with that question, we could certainly think about who we know in that space. Conversations that we've had to at least point you in the right direction doesn't necessarily mean it's embedded in the database as such. But we always welcome people coming with questions like that. We talk to a lot of people talk to us. So usually we can find somebody who can help, or at least somebody who knows somebody else who can do it.
We do actually have marine growth in here. Sorry, it is glitching at the moment. But once again, So a lot of these facilities, there's 2,200, and we're only accessible, a lot of it, to what is on the net, some of the information on the net, without having, you know, the 50 other facilities of rich information. So we were only able to glean what was currently available. So, you know, when you're looking at,
But
you have to take a bit of a potluck call there.
But there is an entry by marine growth option there. So looks like there are a few things out there that you can look into. You've searched pretty much the whole of the state of Vic and had no luck. Asked the question, it does seem valid. People use it as fertilizer, yes. And it seems like a waste to send it to landfill. Clearly, you know, we've come across one or two people who've been actively looking at this. Might not necessarily be in Victoria, but certainly we've had some conversations around this. So yeah, do drop us a line and we'll provide you with some feedback on that. All right, it remains for me to say a big thank you to Kim for coming in and walking us through the database itself and the process of its construction. And to all of you for joining us and supporting us in an ongoing sense, asking really interesting questions, which make us think hard about, you know, what the future might look like. Obviously, anything that we do has to be supported, but ideas for future developments are really useful, and it's great to get this feedback. Thanks once again for taking the time to join us, to join CODA, myself and Kim. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.